Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it is that you're watching this. My name is James, and I am going to be doing a series of music theory tutorials aimed for guitar players. I give lessons, and a lot of the questions that I get are based around these sort of foundational ideas, and I just wanted to do a tutorial and throw it up online in case it helps people. So let's start from the very beginning. We're going to start with something called the chromatic scale. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right. So the idea here is that we are going back to the very fundamental aspects of music. So music is a composite of two different elements, melodic elements and rhythmic elements. Melody being the notes that we play that go high and low, low, high, like that. And rhythmic being the time-based elements that you get different patterns in time. All right, so what we're going to start with is from the melodic side. We are going to start with the basic building blocks of the melodic side of music. So in Western music, we have 12 notes, and you can think of the notes as building blocks, kind of. They can be, here I've got them represented as numbers, but they also are represented as letters. And everything that has ever been created in Western music or ever will be created in Western music is, it only uses these 12 notes. And the reason why I have a 1 at the end here is because after these 12, it repeats ad infinitum, however the hell you say that. So it goes all the way up till it goes so high that it escapes human capabilities of hearing, and it goes so low in the same manner until it goes so low that it escapes all capability of human hearing. So what we're looking at is just one cycle here, and then again I included the beginning of the next cycle just to illustrate that it does repeat. So the grouping of one system, so from like 1 to 1, or if we were to continue this pattern onward and you had, you can see that just the way that this can repeat. If say 4 to 4 or 12 to 12, the grouping of one cycle or one system, that's called an octave. And the reason why I have two different rows here with numbers and letters is because it can be helpful to think of the chromatic scale or the notes in music both as numbers and as letters. As numbers just in the sense that you'll see that they are transferable. There are different ways to copy and paste certain shapes and systems that we'll learn. That's for much further down the line, but just suffice it to say that you can think of them as numbers, as steps. And so the collection of all the notes that exist in Western music in sequential order is called the chromatic scale. I don't think I spell checked this document, so if you see anything funny in here, get over it. Okay, so anyways, the chromatic scale, from the Latin word chroma, I guess, and the idea being that the chromatic scale, like the chromatic spectrum of light, it contains every striation possible, every single segment possible. And so that's what the chromatic scale is. Every single possible note in our system of music right next to each other, right next to its closest neighbor in ascending and descending order. Okay, so the reason why I have it starting at E is because this whole thing is aimed towards guitar players. And if you know the names of your strings, and if you don't, you will sometime soon, but if you know the names of your strings, your lowest string, the string that, like when you're playing, the string that's closest to your face, is an E string. And when you pluck it open, E, you get this E right here. So it can be helpful for guitarists to think of the chromatic scales going from E to E, but the chromatic scale doesn't need to start on E. In a lot of cases, you see it go from C to C, but it can be any number of things. It can start anywhere. It could go G to G. It doesn't matter. And the numbers here, they don't necessarily have to correlate. 1 is E, 2 is always F, 3 is always F sharp, which is what this little number sign symbol means. This is what I'm saying. It can be helpful to think of notes as numbers because they can be changeable. So if you decide you wanted to start your chromatic scale on C, then you could consider C to be 1. So that's just an aside. And if you got any questions about that, leave anything in the comments, and I'll hit back about it. So our chromatic scale, E to E. We're just saying it's starting from E and going to E because we're talking about it going as for guitar players. Okay, so there is also another thing that I want to mention. Well, actually, before I even get there, so let's just walk through this. So our E, F, and this number sign, you say it as sharp. So that would be pronounced F sharp. Then the next one is G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and E. So if you're thinking, as I just read aloud, what happened to E sharp and what happened to B sharp? That's a good observation. So in the brain of, I don't even know, but that's a why doesn't E sharp or B sharp exist, or why isn't it represented here? That is sort of a meta music question that is beyond the scope of this discussion, and I don't know why they didn't choose to do an E sharp or a B sharp. Why this system exists? It's the mathematics under the hood are pretty amazing, but all we need to know is that those notes don't exist. In deeper sort of musical theoretical concepts, you will encounter E sharps and B sharps, but that's way beyond what we need to worry about right now. So all you need to do is memorize the fact that the chromatic scale and the letters of, well, first let's back up and say that the letters of the musical scale go in the sequence of the alphabet and they repeat. So you can see that it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats back to A. And again, you can start the chromatic scale at any letter. So if you started at A, it would match up with our alphabet a lot better, but we're talking about for guitar players. So we're starting with E. And there is no E sharp and there is no B sharp. So if you're going to memorize the chromatic scale, which I highly suggest that you do, because it also is the name of all your frets on your guitar, just remember E goes right into F. Do this here on group. E goes right into F and B goes right into C. Everything else has a buffer note. There's a note in between. There's an F sharp in between F and G. There's a G sharp between G and A. There's an A sharp between A and B, C sharp between C and D, and there is a D sharp between D and E. All right. So if you are skipping ahead here and you're looking at this, inharmonic equivalence. So what that means is just a fancy term for the fact that these notes right here that are in between the letter notes, and let's assign a term to these notes that do not have these symbols after them, natural. So we'll call these the natural notes. All right, so if you're noticing down here, there are two names for these notes that we'll call natural notes, and then the ones with the symbols we'll call accidentals. Okay, so there are two names for every accidental. There is, so for F moving, so there's an F sharp, but then also at the same time, there is a G flat. And I didn't have it represented here because it gets a little confusing, but I put them down here aligned with where they go. And well, how do you choose which term to use? Do I use F sharp or G flat, which are the exact same note? You play it on your guitar or on a piano, ding, it is an F sharp, but it is also at the same time a G flat, and neither is incorrect or correct. And you choose which note, which name to say, F sharp or G flat or G sharp or A flat, based on which scale you are playing in. And the term scale and the concepts around scale are for a later conversation. Just know that inharmonic equivalent means that these notes have two names. You can see that they reside right next to their natural note. So if I was to drag this up, you'd see that the G flat is hidden behind the F sharp. But you'd see that it fits right next to the G. G flat, G, F sharp, F. They reside right next to their natural counterpart.